One cold Friday morning, Jake took his daughter Emily into the living room and did something amazing to her. However, he did not know that there was a camera there. When his wife, Sarah, checked the camera at night, she couldn't believe her eyes. She burst into tears. When this video of Jake and his daughter became popular, people reacted to it in different ways. Many were crying, some were shocked, and others were speechless. "It made me cry. I will never watch this again," someone wrote in the comments. The most amazing thing is that this story happened right after the frightening incident that nearly separated Emily's parents. A few weeks before Jake was caught doing something with his daughter, he returned from work earlier than usual and went straight to Sarah's room. "Honey, are you back early?" "What is it?" she asked, but was met with a cold stare. She had never seen such an expression in Jake's eyes, and it scared her to the core. Jake looked terrible. He wasn't wearing a tie and he didn't take it off until he got home. His eyes were bloodshot, as if he had been crying all day. Worse, he smelled of alcohol. Sarah knew that Jake, whom she married, would never drink and drive, so something was wrong. "It's really not like that. Why?" Finally, Jake broke the silence and said in a trembling voice, "Sarah, why did you do that?" Sarah was confused. She went up to Jake and tried to hug him, but he stopped her. Sarah was shocked. Jake had never treated her like that. However, instead of telling her what the problem was, Jake went to Emily's room where she was sleeping in her crib. "You're mine. I love you so much. I can't live without you," he said to the sleeping Emily, and tears began to flow from his eyes. Sarah tried to get Jake to talk, but he didn't say anything. He didn't eat dinner and went to bed earlier than usual. He tossed and turned on his bed all night, restless. She couldn't sleep either. Eventually, Jake managed to doze off for a few minutes, but suddenly he woke up screaming, "Emily!" "Okay, that's it," Sarah snapped. She was tired of the waiting game. Jake needed to tell her what the problem was. Angry, she woke him up. "You've been acting weird ever since you got home from work, but you haven't said anything. It's driving me crazy," she said angrily. What she heard next made her freeze. Jake sat on the bed, ran his fingers through his hair, and shouted, "Charles came to my office yesterday. He said that Emily wasn't mine, but his." "What?" Sarah stammered. "Charles was Sarah's first love and her longtime boyfriend." No, Charles is lying. I need you to trust me," she replied in a trembling voice. "I really want to, but help me understand," Jake said. And then he asked for Sarah's phone. She handed him the phone and Jake checked her call log, which showed that she had received about 10 calls from Charles in the last 7 days, and she had also called him half a dozen times. "You were talking to him behind my back. Is everything he said true?" He looked questioningly at the woman he loved with all his heart. "Why did you talk to him again, and why didn't you tell me?" "We never hide anything from each other," Jake said calmly. "I know you're fighting for a promotion and you need to be in a good mood. I didn't want to bother you. I would never do anything to hurt you," she said, and then went on to tell Jake about how Charles had suddenly started calling her in the last few days, begging her to come back into his life, and she had only returned his calls to ask him to stay away, because she is happily married. While she was explaining all this, Jake suddenly jumped out of bed, opened the closet, and took out the bag he had taken with him to work the day before. He opened it and took out an envelope. "I wish I could trust you, Sarah, but this is driving me crazy." "Okay, I understand the reason, but how do you explain it?" he said calmly and poured the contents of the envelope on the bed. When Sarah saw that she was lying on the bed, her legs gave way and she fell. The envelope contained photographs of Sarah and Charles in a hotel room. Judging by the dates on the photos, they were taken a week before Jake and Sarah's wedding. "What can you say? Just tell me the truth and I'll forgive you. I love you so much, Sarah, no matter what," Jake said in a calm tone. Bursting into tears, Sarah explained that she had indeed met Charles a week before their wedding. "He threatened to take my life if I refused to meet with him. We met at the hotel bar, but Charles complained that he suddenly felt dizzy and needed to rest. So I went with him. The truth is, part of me felt guilty about leaving him, too. I thought he was my soulmate until I met you. I also went there to apologize to Charles for hurting him. I left him for you, and I felt guilty about it. Trust me, nothing happened. I swear on my life. I'm sorry. I've been hiding it from you. I should have told you. Emily is yours. There was nothing between Charles and me. Sarah sobbed. Jake found himself in a difficult position. Charles even persuaded him to take a DNA test, and now Sarah claims that Emily belongs to him. Despite all this, Jake couldn't bear to see Sarah cry, so he moved closer to her and hugged her. Then he asked her to stop crying and said that everything would be fine. But it wasn't really that good. The couple got a little bit apart. Jake didn't want to take the test, but he knew it was the only way to resolve a situation that was about to destroy his marriage, so he went for it. However, while waiting for the results of the DNA analysis, Jake continued to try to be a loving husband. He assured Sarah that he loved her regardless of the outcome of the case. As for Sarah, she constantly reproached herself for hiding important information from her husband. A week later, the couple was watching TV when Jake's phone suddenly beeped. It was an email. As soon as Jake read this, the phone fell out of his hands and tears began to flow from his eyes. Sarah didn't even bother to ask him what the letter was about. She knew what it contained, so she ran right up to Jake, took him in her arms, and they kissed like it was their first kiss. They put a lot of passion into that kiss. Jake felt guilty that a part of him doubted his wife, but with all this evidence, who wouldn't doubt him? As for Sarah, she felt that none of this would have happened if she hadn't hidden from Jake the incident with the meeting with Charles and their recent communication. The day after a DNA test confirmed that Emily was Jake's daughter, Sarah went to the supermarket to buy groceries. She was gone for about an hour, and that's when Jake did something completely unexpected to his daughter. Sarah recently installed cameras throughout the house to monitor Emily's movements, as she was a hyperactive child. Sarah didn't check the camera until she went to bed. Jake was sleeping next to her, and since she wasn't sleepy yet, she decided to look at the camera to see what Jake and Emily were doing while she was outside. The plan was to have a good laugh and go to bed. She had no idea that she would cry. When Sarah turned on the camera and pressed play, she heard Emily crying loudly. Then she saw Jake get up from the couch in the living room and head to Emily's bedroom. She could hear him humming to her, but the girl continued to cry. A few minutes later, the camera showed Jake returning to the living room with Emily in his arms. He put it on the floor and then went to turn on the music. When the music started, Jake started dancing. Seeing that all his attempts to calm his daughter were unsuccessful, he decided to do something creative and funny, just to cheer up his daughter. At first, Emily just looked at her father, but his dancing moves were so funny that Emily, who had been crying before, started laughing. But what the baby did next moved Sarah to tears. Emily also began to copy her father's movements, and soon they were dancing, hugging each other and laughing. It was such a beautiful and emotional sight that Sarah couldn't hold back her tears. She saw how much Jake loved Emily, and it would be unbearable for him if it turned out that she was not his biological daughter. But despite that, she knew that he would still love her the same way. After watching the video, Sarah moved closer to Jake and kissed him. "Thank you for your patience and kindness. Emily and I love you very much. You're a good person." Perhaps Jake heard her in his sleep because he turned to face her and whispered, "I love you even more before I start snoring again." Later that week, the couple received an injunction requiring Charles to stay away from them. This proves once again that love conquers everything. What do you think about this story? Share your thoughts in the comments.